Welcome to all of you to this inaugural Forever Green Forum, Innovation for Systemic Change in Agriculture. Actually, at this university, we talk about agriculture a lot in many contexts. For example, we are trying to answer this question that by 2050, the population of this world will be close to 9.7 billion people. And how do you produce food for all of them? The land mass is not expanding. The land mass is actually shrinking as a function of time. And we have already used all kinds of technologies to improve the productivity and yield from existing land mass. So how do you produce more from less? And this very tough questions about that you have to produce more, but also in a very sustainable way without affecting the water streams, without affecting the environment and so on, which makes it even harder. And this is where I think Forever Green comes in, that they are answering a lot of tough questions, not only about designing the crops, which I learned a lot actually by just talking to Mitch and Nick and other people. I didn't realize that you can knock off this gene and that gene to reduce sulfur and phosphorus in a crop. I mean, this almost sounded like a magic. I thought only drug people design pharmaceuticals that way. But crops are designed that way, that you can actually tailor the oil content in a certain thing while actually minimizing or maximizing certain chemistry. I remember my walk actually with the late Dr. Don Wyse. We were doing a field presentation for Delta representatives. I think it was about 6-7 months ago, or more than a year, about a year ago. Yeah, and Don was, so we finished the whole thing, and at the field, they watched the camelina crops and stuff. And then Don and I was walking back as the group was walking much faster, and we were just slower, so we just, two of us. And he explained to me the history that, Shashank, this all started because I wanted to make Minnesota the most famous state in agriculture. I wanted to make sure that our farmers have every type of instruments that they can have and all the seeds and so on that they can have in order to really prosper. And Forever Green was this vision that came into picture, and I have the best team in this world. And I was like, so every time I think about Forever Green, I just remember that conversation with Don, which was about making transformation in Minnesota to make us the most competitive state in the world in producing the different kinds of crops. And I think we are very close to that vision because we have done so much innovation in so many different areas. The crops today not only can survive all kinds of climate and all kinds of different diseases and different types of problems, but also they actually provide a very robust production capability. So I'm so glad that we are here today to talk about innovation and further actually improve what we have achieved so far. Last year, I think we also had this great achievement from Forever Green. One of their crops, camelina, that they have worked on forever, was finally able to transition into a real actual demonstration of a Delta flight that flew from Minneapolis to New York, which is a really great demonstration. I think I talk to greater MSP folks a lot of time, and I think they're trying to work together with Forever Green, with our state legislatures, to put together the business aspects, the policy, the insurance, the rates, etc., so that farmers can absorb this over a much larger area. I'm being told millions of acres in order to produce the enough crops that is needed in order to make the sustainable fuel a reality, which is a dramatic impact of this team. This research is also very interesting because it not only brings together the plant scientists and soil and water quality, a lot of agricultural folks, but it also needs a lot of technology like sensors and data mining and trying to understand the changes as a function of time, whether these are weather-related changes or others. So it's really a very interdisciplinary work that this team pulls together in order to solve a real problem. And these are practical things that they develop because these are generations of seeds that finally are then transitioned into the farm fields that are utilized by our farmers. So I'm very, very glad about how we are able to take lab-based things and move them into the commercial space. This is something actually I'm very proud of at Minnesota. I came here from Penn State, and I can't say this about Penn State, nothing bad about Penn State, but in UMN, we spin off about 25 to 27 companies per year. We are the largest startup creator in the state of Minnesota. We have created 270 companies since 2006, and many of our companies, on average, have 10 years or more survival rate. Each year, actually, since many of our companies are now tens of years old, each year we have very good rate of mergers and acquisitions, which create a lot of economic impact on the state. Thousands of jobs created by these companies. And 2 years ago, we had Myromatrix acquired by United Therapeutics. And I think you have heard this company called Niron Magnetics, which is the company for making magnets, which are rare earth free, and becoming a big national security product. So agriculture is a big part of our portfolio. Over 20% of our companies are in agricultural domain, all the way from fertilizers to different types of seed varieties to different types of fruits like Honeycrisp apple or different hazelnuts and so on. So I think this is a big portfolio, and this comes from all the research and all the ideas and creativity that this program creates here. So today is both celebration and also, I think, a springboard for creating new ideas and new initiatives. And I wish you all a very, very good day here. I think you'll have a very exciting conversation and a lot of great presentations. This is a very diverse audience here today. We have business leaders and policymakers, legislators, researchers, business leaders from different companies, and variety of funders and sponsors. So I think it's a very good, diverse audience. So I'm expecting there will be a lot of energy in the room all day to have conversation and identify some really good ideas that we can all work on together and move them forward. Also, I wish that this forum will continue to expand and grow, and will bring a lot of people from both in-state and out-of-state to start having a both national conversation about how we can really amplify the impact of the developments that are taking place here. And great for our students and postdocs if they are here in the room. I think this is what makes university different, that you get the chance to participate and network with all the leaders in the field. So it's a great opportunity for you to start developing your own friends and your own network in order to accelerate your career trajectory here. So with that, I'll stop, and I want to thank Mitch and Nick for your leadership. So let's give them a very big round of applause here. A lot of leadership here from other Forever Green staff members, so congratulations to all of you too. And yeah, we all miss Don Wyse here. I think I heard that last night he was awarded the SEAL Prize for Excellence in Agriculture, so congratulations for all the things that he has done and brought us to this stage here. With that, I would like to actually invite Representative Ginny Klevorn to come down here. She's a very strong advocate for Forever Green at the state capitol and very long-time friend of our program here, and we really appreciate everything that you have done for us. So thank you.
Good morning. I heard Mitch say, "Can I get a good morning?" So I'd like to hear the loudest Forever Green. Can I get a Forever Green? Forever Green. You can do better. Again. Come on. Forever Green. All right. So you might wonder how a suburban legislator got involved in Forever Green. I knew Don Wyse longer than I've been married to my husband, and we are about to celebrate our 45th wedding anniversary. Don was my husband's graduate advisor. I think my husband, Tom, might have been his third or fourth grad student. There's some debate about who made it 3 or 4, but Don was an incredible, incredible man. Because what Don knew is that in order to get anything done, you had to build a team. And that team had to be of varied skills. It wasn't anyone better than anyone else, right? I mean, Don would get a shovel and a hoe out and do the hard work, and he expected everybody else to be committed as well. If you were on under his umbrella, you had to be committed, you had to be hardworking, and you had to understand that the project was bigger than you. There was no place in Don's program for ego. Everybody played their role. So here I am. When I decided to run for the legislature in 2016, Don was a strong supporter. And because he knew that if I got in the legislature, he had a strong advocate for Forever Green. I didn't win in 2016, but I came back and won in 2018. So my commitment to Don was I would get on the Ag Committee and see what I could do for Forever Green. Now, people had been working on Forever Green before I got to the legislature, but the legislature is really a unique place to try to get something done, right? I just wrote this down this morning. So for Forever Green, we're talking agriculture, energy, climate, economic development, and higher education. Each one of those committees has a different chair, and they're in two different bodies, right? So whatever we try to get through in the House, we also have to try to get through in the Senate. So you have to understand, coming into the legislature, it's just like your first year of grad school, right? Where do I go? Who do I need to know? How do I get there? And how do I get things done, right? So not only are you navigating the different chairs who control the money, and as a newbie legislator, that's like, okay, how do I come in and tell you what you already should know? Then you're working with DFL, you're working with GOP, you're working with the governor, and you're working with the U of M, all of which have different priorities and goals, right? So trying to make sure that you keep your project front and center is truly a full-time job. Commissioner Peterson, you know I chirped in your ear every chance. If I saw you in the hall, he's like, oh no, here's Ginny Forever Green. Okay, got it. Okay. But you also have to build this coalition to understand that this is an economic driver for our state. This is the next soybean, right? Before, people thought about soybean only as animal feed. Now it's everywhere. Forever Green is the same type of thing. It takes a while to bring people on board. It needs economic incentives. It needs buy-in. One of the things that I first loved in 2019 is I reached out to my Republican colleagues. I'm a Democrat. I reached out to my Republican colleagues and said, hey, what do you know about Forever Green? And there was a competition, right? Is it attacking traditional agriculture, traditional row crops, or is it bringing something new and exciting to farmers? Don knew that in order to keep farming sustainable in our state, we had to develop new economic opportunities for our farmers. A farm doesn't work if you don't have cash, and cash is king in the farm economy. But he also knew, and he was very good at elevating the traditional farmer and saying, we know that you are good stewards of the land. We know the importance of soil to you. We know the importance of water quality to you. And so building the relationship, it wasn't this farmer is better than that farmer. It was trying to bring the farmers together, whether they were looking for new organic small specialties or whether they were doing traditional row crops. Don knew that, and he built this coalition. So moving forward, trying to figure out what do you do when power at the legislature changes hands right and left, right? Making sure that you have those colleagues who know you, who trust you, and know that you will hold your word, so that when they have power, they will still continue to work for your projects. It's amazing to me. In 2019, we had one of the only divided legislatures in the state. And it was hard to try to make sure that the House DFL priorities aligned with the Senate GOP priorities. But Don did the hard work of making sure that in the Senate, he had Republican lobbyists, and in the House, he had DFL lobbyists, constantly working the systems because he knew he was going in the right direction. This Forever Green is a winner for our state. It is a winner for our economy. It is a winner for our farm families. So, where are we today? Through the hard work of Don, and I heard last night at the SEAL Prize that, did Don follow the script? There was no script for Don Wyse. There was never a script for Don Wyse. But he could tell the story, and he would say to us, tell the damn story. And he brought in the climate activists to say, look, this is what's happening. Our soil is getting hotter and hotter. Our plants can't deal with this if we don't find a way to protect the soil from the extreme weather conditions. In 2023, Commissioner, tell me if I'm right, we had polar vortex, we had drought, we had flood, and we had avian influenza. Is that correct? Right, yeah. There is no way in a legislative budget that we can continue to fund all of those things all the time. So we try to take control where we can, and continuous living cover is one of the places where we can take control and do good things. It helps us in drought. It helps us in flood. It protects our soil, and it surely can make sure that we have extra crops and extra revenue streams for our farmers. And now we're moving into the commercialization piece of it. And one of the things that the legislature that I had to really deal with is one-time money is something that people will give away, whether it's legacy money or clean water funds. You can get one-time money, but trying to get the ongoing, long-term, sustainable funding for the science, right? We have to understand that the science will drive everything. And that's where the university comes in. And I've had really great partners, whether it's the Environmental Partnership or Friends of the Mississippi or the Commissioner or Minnesota Farmers Union. It's all good to make sure that we understand that the ongoing full-time funding is key. And so where do you come into this picture, right? Each and every one of you has a story to tell about Forever Green. Each and every one of you has an opportunity to make a difference in our climate, in our economy, in our environment. And I'm asking you to reach out to your legislators and make sure that they know that Forever Green is important. Whether you're in Minnesota or you're one of the partnerships in other states, right? This is a whole platform. It's a large project. And each of you has a role to play. So I'm going to ask you to please take that to heart and to make a commitment to following Forever Green and making sure that you are elevating it wherever you might be. And it is a tremendous potential for all of us. We only have one Earth, and this is a great way for us to serve it and it to serve us. So I'm going to ask you what Don Wyse would always say. Are you committed? Are you committed? Yes. Can we have it a little louder? Yes. Okay, the other thing I'm going to say is there's lots of really cool swag in the other room. Before you leave today, make sure you buy your Forever Green t-shirt and take it home with you. It's a great way to spread the word about what the importance of Forever Green is. And for every dollar we spend in our state, and right now the commitment is about $9.5 million from the state legislative budget, it's returning $5 to our state. So it's a really good investment for all of us, and it's putting your tax dollars to good use. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Representative Klevorn, for explaining to us how difficult it is to make something happen, which makes our thanks for your support all the deeper. And Vice President Priya, thank you for your kind words and for reminding us of what a great institution the University of Minnesota is. I've had a good feeling about the University of Minnesota since I was 4 or so, and my mother, who was a medical student at the time, would bring home these really tasty rabbits that came, quote unquote, from the lab. And, so I've had a good feeling about the U for most of my life. And I've had such a good feeling about working with the people in this room, for many of you, for many years over the time that Forever Green and its predecessors have been in operation. And so I'm Nick Jordan. I am co-director of Forever Green along with Mitch Hunter. And I need to do a little bit of just a bit of introductions and to make a few acknowledgments before we get the ball rolling here. So first of all, I do want to introduce again Mitch Hunter, my co-director in Forever Green. And Ann Kirby, our Director of Outreach and Communication. And then finally, Colin Curitan, who is our Director of Commercialization and Scaling. So we are the four horse people. Now, I would also like to acknowledge the fact that a great many person hours were expended in getting ready for this event. And so we pulled together a planning committee and an executive team for this Forever Green Forum, and I would like those folks to be acknowledged for all their hard work. And then finally, I'd like to acknowledge the University of Minnesota scientists and faculty who formed the executive committee of our R&D work. And if those folks could be acknowledged. Great, and thank you very much. Now, we have a bunch of sponsors to thank as well. And each of these organizations has really been quite generous in helping us make today happen and yesterday happen as well. And I would like, in the light of all that help and all that sponsorship, I would also like us to take a minute to be aware of all of the folks who farm, who have made efforts and taken risks in various ways to adopt diversified and regenerative farming. And many of those folks are in quite difficult circumstances of late. And if anyone is interested in making a donation to either of these organizations, these funds will go directly to helping farmers who are practicing diversified and regenerative farming who are in distress in various ways. Okay, I also want it to be clear the amazing diversity of folks that are coming together today, and to underscore that we have waited a long time to have this event. So Forever Green has existed for 13 years or so. Don and I were always very reluctant to showcase because we felt what we were doing was very much a work in progress. We feel that we've come to the point where we can have not a showcase, but a day of a forum in which the many sectors of society that are represented by the folks on this slide can listen to some presentations about the moving parts that make up Forever Green and react and help us ideate about how to make all those working parts work better and to make the whole thing work better. So this day is a forum, not a showcase. And we're going to move quickly. And we might possibly be a bit behind schedule already. Therefore, I want to get the ball rolling. And I do want to mention, though, that we'll be using a technique, a sort of app called VoiceHive that will be our device for making this day as interactive as possible. So we'll be prompting you about that as we go along. Okay, so moving right along, I'm going to say just a few words to get the ball rolling on the theme of what do we mean by innovating for systemic change? And what, in fact, is that all about? And what, from the Forever Green point of view, is the whole motivation and necessity for systemic change in agriculture. And the main point that I want to make is that we are in an era of history in which society really needs a bunch of new things from agriculture. Society certainly needs the things that agriculture has done throughout civilization around food and biomaterials. But there are some new things that are needed. A really good example of that is the necessity for agriculture to be a very active provider of climate adaptation to society. So this is a photograph of a notorious harmful algal bloom that happened in western Lake Erie in 2017. It deprived the large city of Toledo of drinking water for about a week. This was driven by big storms and carrying nutrients into western Lake Erie and warming. And we cannot have events like this. Agriculture has the ability in this particular way, but in many other ways, to provide very meaningful climate adaptation services to society at scale. That's a really important example of a new thing that we need from agriculture. So how could we, in fact, carry out some systemic change to respond to these new needs? And the Forever Green assessment is that we need more crop diversity on farmland. We need crops that play well with our current excellent crops that we have. And we need to put our shoulders together in new ways. Those, we think, are the essence of it. And that's really what you'll be hearing about today, is an elaboration on these two ideas. And if we can do this, we see this as an enormous opportunity for agriculture and everything it touches. An enormous opportunity to create value for both everyone that's involved in agriculture and for society as a whole. The keystone, the heart of it all, and certainly the star of today, is the concept of continuous living cover agriculture as depicted in this handsome graphic from our friends at Greenland's Blue Waters. I trust that almost everyone in the room is familiar with this concept of continuous living cover agriculture, but just to remind, it's the idea that we have over as much of the farm landscape, as much of the year, a productive living crop with living roots in the soil and some sort of living plant canopy. And there are lots of ways that that can be achieved. There are many different kinds of plants, many different forms of agriculture, many of which we'll talk about today, that make up this notion of continuous living cover. It's very pluralistic in that sense. And the really important thing about it is that it creates a sort of halo of good things, not only on farms, but also off farms. For example, services like that, controlling water, controlling the movement of nutrients, things like that at large scale. And this creates a lot of value, and that basic value creation creates lots of opportunities. I'm just going to touch on three. First of all, the basic function of agriculture is to feed us and provide us with biomaterials. So continuous living cover agriculture can provide biomaterials that the world wants and needs, such as new sources of protein, such as low-carbon vegetable oil, and very importantly also, CLC systems, cropping systems that have continuous living cover, add sustainability value to all things that are produced from them, including traditional commodities like corn and soybeans. Also, CLC agriculture offers a big bundle of environmental benefits around soil, around water, around conserving wildlife, addressing the terrible biodiversity problem we have with insects, for example. And finally, continuous living cover agriculture offers some large benefits that we have to call social. They're more than the sort of agricultural economy benefits and environmental benefits. They're broadly social. For example, many regions are now making plans for what we can think of as resilience in the face of climate, making regional scale resilience plans. And CLC agriculture, you will see if you read them, is figuring in these plants as a source of economic diversification, as a source of what people call green infrastructure that helps us, make good use of water resources, and also in devising new urban-rural partnerships and cooperations around common interests in regional resilience. To create this value, we need to cooperate in new ways. And specifically, we need major sectors of society to be putting shoulders together in new ways at new scales. We need these sectors to learn together, to innovate together, and to together create what we can call an enabling environment involving policy and otherwise that will enable us to realize the potential and the value of CLC systems. And again, these are CLC crops integrated with the crops we already have to make continuous living cover agriculture a reality. The work that we're going to be discussing today is not the work of Forever Greens alone by any means. We are doing this work as part of a wide coalition, just a few of the particularly significant partners that we have and fellow travelers, including our very close partners, Land Institute, Savannah Institute, who both represented today in this forum, Greenland's Blue Waters, the Regenerative Agricultural Alliance, also both represented today, and you'll hear their voices later today, and Grassland 2.0. We also, just to close, stand on the shoulders of Don Wyse. Don was all about bringing people together to cooperate in new ways across lines of difference, across the sectors of society. These are a few of the, as he called them, platforms that he created for this purpose. The platforms all advanced regenerative agriculture, diversified agriculture. They all brought people together that had different visions, different forms of knowledge, and they were all about building and sustaining cooperation. I do want to emphasize that these platforms were not built by Don alone. For example, one of the earliest and most significant, the Minnesota Institute for Sustainable Agriculture, is a co-creation of a bunch of organizations, and I want to particularly recognize Land Stewardship Project for their very consistent support and advocacy and the work that we've done together over the years. And I also want to mention, they were not involved in the formation of MISA, but they sure have been important to the growth of Forever Green, the Minnesota Farmers Union. So, Forever Green, what you'll hear today in this forum, what you will react to and help co-create today, is building on the vision of Don Wyse and the truly amazing and boundless creative energy of that man. And so to talk about that vision and open up the hood on it a little bit, I am pleased to introduce and bring up my friend and co-director, Mitch Hunter.